Netflix's Monster, the Ed Gein story, let's get into facts versus fiction. I have to say I enjoyed the series. I appreciate how Netflix brought to light the story of Ed Gein. His horrific actions inspired many iconic works of art like Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs, especially Buffalo Bill, and many other works of horror as well. Okay, Ed Gein. What a strange and scary individual. He did many unthinkable things, like grave robbing, murder, using human skin and body parts in multiple ways, including furniture. Netflix took his story and embellished quite a bit. Basically took creative rights to a whole new level. Just outright wrong. And lies. But that's okay. Which I don't think they needed to do. At least not to the extent they did. Including the actor's voice.
Okay.
What were they thinking?
You know.
He was timid, but that's a bit of a stretch.
Well, no, I have to thank you. Yeah, somebody died in fact.
We'll take the heads off.
Then how would you, what would you do with the head?
That must have been taken from reading about these magazines and everything. Taking the flesh off like that.
Let's get into his earlier life and some things that may have led him to being the way he was. His dad was a drunk. Apparently he abused both Ed and his brother Henry. His mother Augusta was a staunch religious woman who had a lot of disdain for the female gender. Ed was definitely a mama's boy. She was domineering and insistent on being in control and having every bit of control over Ed. And he complied. It's thought he idealized her in a very unhealthy way.
Prayed and prayed to the good Lord for it, but it was not his will, so. Only a mother could love you.
Ed's brother Henry supposedly tried to level with Ed and make him realize how overbearing and damaging his mother's influence was on him. The show paints a picture that Ed lost it when confronted, but there is no irrefutable evidence of that. Henry did die on their farm with some suspicious circumstances. They were burning off marsh vegetation, and the fire, quote unquote, grew out of control. After the fire department left, Ed reported him missing. Ed later led the police directly to Henry's body. Ruled as asphyxiation, but there were reports of bruising on Henry's head. Unfortunately, no autopsy was performed. Ed did supposedly have a romantic relationship with Adeline Watkins. At first, Adeline said they had a 20-year relationship and he proposed marriage. She later retracted those statements. There's not a lot of info about their relationship. She wasn't nearly as involved as Netflix portrayed when it comes to a shared appreciation for crime scenes and dead bodies, but she did initially state that the two of them often discussed murder. It would seem Ed Gein took a turn for the darkness after his mother Augusta passed away. He did try to dig her grave up, but it was encased in a concrete vault. So what did Ed do? He went and dug up a respectable replacement right next to his parents' grave sites. And that's where it's apparent he crossed a point of no return. He believed he had the power to bring his dear mother back to life. He believed this so much, he attempted to recreate her by using the body parts of other graves. A few years later, his darkness had grown to the point that he murdered two women, Mary Hogan, who disappeared in 1954, and Bernice Worden in 1957. The murder of Bernice Worden is what led to him getting caught. Bernice was a store owner. Her disappearance was noticed quickly. Apparently, Ed made the last purchase at her store. Pretty sloppy if you ask me. The cops went straight to his house and started to search his property with probable cause. Apparently back then, in such a small town, such things were informal, meaning it wasn't like today where everybody needed a search warrant. And what they found? Good grief. Let's get into that. The house was filthy. They found furniture made of skin, garments and gloves made of skin, a belt made of nipples, mask made of human faces, utensils made out of bone. Bro was a straight-up lunatic. The most horrific thing the cops found, in my opinion, was Bernice's body in a shed, an outbuilding. She was mutilated in a similar way he mutilated the bodies he pulled from the graves, similar to how you would dress out an animal. Her son didn't find her, as the show portrayed, but he was a deputy sheriff and helped with the investigation. Ed was immediately arrested. He then only confessed to the 2 murders. He was found mentally unfit for a trial, and he spent the rest of his life in a mental ward. If you ask me, he got off way too easy. He didn't speak to any other famous criminals like the show portrays. He was rather isolated in the ward, pretty much a loner. So whatever crazy mess that early scene was, Ted Bundy, the guy with boobs, Richard Speck, Jerry Brudos, and that long conversation with Ilsa Koch never happened. There's not even any proof that any serial killers idealized Ed Gein or even knew much about him. I do appreciate Netflix including some of these people into their story, albeit it was quite strange and a rather artistic approach. But I didn't know about Ilsa Koch or Richard Speck or some others, including Ed Gein. I think they did a good job of shedding some light on some of those awful people while also educating and sparking interest in other horrific stories. I did overall enjoy the series. I laughed at some of the silliness, but I enjoyed it.